Yo, what's up? Welcome to the Ant-Man channel. It is Tuesday, the 16th of December, 2014, and I'm your host, Ant-Man. I have an article in front of me from ClashDaily.com with Doug Giles. ClashDaily.com. This was written yesterday, and it is titled, Anti-Virtue Society Leads to a Rotting Civilization. This is by Jesse Fenig, Clash Daily guest contributor. Virtue is not a subject that is generally discussed in modern daily life. We don't really see it as something that can be aspired to. You're either virtuous or you aren't. But really, what is virtue anyway? What one man sees as virtuous, another might see as vicious, having to do with vice. Yup, that really is the origin of that word. How do we define virtue? How dare we say to someone else what is right for them? Sound familiar? You may not have heard these exact words. I don't think I've ever heard this stated clearly and openly, certainly. But I'm sure I'm sure that you'll have encountered this attitude. It's the replacement of virtue with tolerance, denying that there might be a reason to tell people no. Virtue has become a thing that is imputed to a class through the accusation of bias. Sexism, racism, classism, these accusations have replaced actual results in the measurement of virtue. It's prevalent in modern Western culture, and it's the thing that is destroying it. Western culture is built on a set of shared values, civic virtues, if you will, that are the bedrock of society, and a foundation that, when removed, renders the rest of it hollow and meaningless. We live in that movie, Idiocracy. Remember how in that movie, Idiocracy, that Mike Judge wrote? That when somebody uses a big word, the guy that's living in that time, because who was it? It's not Owen Wilson, it's the other, Luke Wilson. He goes back in time, or he goes forward in time. He gets cryogenically frozen or something. It's a movie, okay? I don't know if that actually can happen or not, but he gets frozen and whatever. He goes into he's preserved for the future. He wakes up in the future, and people are so stupid that when you use a big word, people call you a fag for it. Excuse my language. If you're young, you don't need to worry about what that means. But that's literally the times we're living in now. Like if you're smart, people look at you like you're weird. Like, why are you smart? I thought we were all supposed to be gangbangers and hitting each other over the head and trying to take each other's women like barbarians. You know what I mean? That's the people that you're around most of the time. If you're in California, this is like the norm. Because you look around and you don't see any sign of intelligent life anywhere. And yeah, that's a quote from Buzz Lightyear of Toy Story. But but it's so, I'm not trying to be critical either, man. I'm just trying to be honest with you. Virtue is something looked at as you're stupid. If you try to be smart, you're stupid. If you just love what is it that everyone does nowadays? Vine videos or whatever. That's the thing to do. That's what you're supposed to be just it's like mind control. You're looking at your phone all day, drooling, and that's what's normal today. And people don't think that there is anything wrong with the media. It's whew, we got some problems, people. These civic virtues are an essential part of the character of the fully realized Western citizen. Civic virtues, Aristotle called them arit, which means excellence. And so shall I are the things that bind Western civilization together on a fairly fundamental level. These are the character traits that launched Western civilization to the heights it eventually achieved. I'm not going to presume to draw a high water mark somewhere in history. That is for others who are better informed than I. I do not hesitate to say that it is past, and probably somewhere in the past 100 years or so, and the traits whose rejection is leading directly to our downfall. Yeah, we have a civil. What America is now is like everything that we used to be about is everything we're against now, and it's because of this kind of culture that we're cultivating through the media, that everything's supposed to be about taking and fornicating, and it's really filthy sin is what it is, and it's depravity. It makes you not a spiritual living inside out type of person. It makes you a very superficial, you know what I mean? I want everything now. Everything has to be my way. I'm emotionally governed type of person. Now, everything that I talk about on this show, you guys, I used to be, man. I used to be lost too. I understand what it's like to be lost, being emotionally governed, having a short temper, all of these things, man. And I still have a short temper, and I do a way better job now controlling it than I did back then. I mean, I was the typical spoiled brat American dude that would get mad at any little thing that didn't go my way. When someone tells me to clean up after myself, I would start wrecking everything. You know what I mean? It's just like that is the type of emotionally governed culture that we have today. And yeah, I was one of those people, but the Spirit of God transformed me from the inside out. And the fact of the matter is that everything that we know works. Everything that got us here is what we reject. And it's so ungrateful to everything that we have inherited in this country that we take all of the virtues of our founding fathers and the Puritans and all that, and we throw it in the garbage as if it doesn't do anything good, as if it didn't bring all of this prosperity. Instead, we look to the Industrial Revolution and to the progressive liberals that transformed fundamentally our country as the beginning. And that's how it's always been. No, sorry, atheists. This country was devoted to God and built off of Christian principles in the very beginning, and you cannot change that. I don't care how indoctrinated you got at your public school. This country was founded by Christians. And that doesn't mean that this is utopia and everything's going to be freaking perfect. It makes me mad that people think that just because you think a Christian foundation, look, we had slavery, who cares? That doesn't mean anything. The fact of the matter is that we brought the idea of what America is to this country. I'm not saying we're perfect and that we bring love and prosperity and peace and unity to this world. We're sinners just like everyone else, but have been saved in the eyes of God, are not sinners anymore, but adopted children of God, beloved, the apple of his eye. Yes, atheist, in this tremendous universe, God looks at us and sees us and cares about us more than anything else he's created. What is man that you should be mindful of him, is what the psalmist said. And it's a beautiful quote. So anyway, let me get back into this. I get really upset because I hate how people who don't believe in God these days try to reinvent history and redefine words. I'm sorry, atheists. I don't buy into your deception. You can deceive yourself if you want, but I'm not going to deceive myself, especially because a bunch of peer pressure driven people want to go around and talk down to me and ad hominem attack me all day. It doesn't matter to me. Oh, you don't want me to be in your circle of accepted people. I don't care, dude. I am a pilgrim. I am not of this world, but I am chosen by God to tell you this stuff. And yeah, I know him. And I know Christopher Hitchens will mock that. He'll be like, oh, this guy thinks he's on personal terms with God. I am. He talks to me every day. Not like in an audible voice, but he talks to my heart. He puts things in my heart and in my mind, and I know it's from him. Because I, in and of myself, do not think or direct my life in ways that tend to go against what I plan on doing or may not make sense to me at the time. And I know it's God sometimes. And I know how that sounds. But for someone who doesn't believe in the supernatural, that to me in and of itself is foolish, because the universe demands that there is a possibility that there is supernatural, that the supernatural can come and intervene and stop all natural law whenever it chooses to. There are many scientists, real scientists, that have come to that conclusion. We're talking about things like integrity, discipline, responsibility, temperance, courage, a desire for justice, and so on. Arete in the collection of civic virtues that tie the classical men of history together in a chain stretching back to Aristotle. In the history of the United States, we have George Washington, who refused the kingship of a nation. In the history of the church, Martin Luther, who stood on the principles before the greatest authorities of his time. In ancient Rome, Marcus Aurelius, who formalized a tradition of duty that for 2,000 years the enemies of virtue have struggled to destroy. Beyond these, there are 1,000 more nameless faces living productive, full lives in obscurity. They're great, and make no mistake, it is great. Contribution being merely that they stood, these virtues are the one that Western civilization has cast aside. And if you get offended, because I know how some Christians can be petty out there, and I love you, but if you get all offended because I said freaking earlier, hey man, I've actually let the word F kind of slip out at church, and I know somebody heard me. But you know what? You know what word I do? You know what phrase I do hear in church a lot? Oh my, fill in the blank. I'd rather say the F word than oh my, you know what. Because I'd rather use an actual cuss word, an actual curse word, if it has to slip out. I'd rather use the F word than use Jesus Christ's name in the place of a cuss word, because that's what you're doing, and that's blasphemy. And in the Old Testament, people got put to death for that. So imagine what that's like in God's eyes for you to use His name as a cuss word, and then you look at me because I said freaking. I just side note, you guys. I know a lot of you guys out there, you're young, maybe immature, still in the faith, and please bear with me. I'm young too. I'm only 2.5 when it comes to being born again, man. I mean, I'm a young guy, still learning a lot. But at least I'm not afraid to open my mouth like so many Christians these days they just want to be accepted, and it's all about love. Anyway, sorry about that. I don't mean to mock that. Sometimes that they take away the joy from us because they're like, they go overboard with it, man, and it's kind of like sickening. But anyways, when Arit vanishes from a civilization, you're left with a form without substance, staggering on through history as the individuals who make it up refuse to stand and drag it down to collapse. This is made worse as people put their own spin on the virtues that make up Arit, perverting honesty into personal truth and integrity, into sincerity and justice, into an ever-lengthening list of isms like a healthy limb turned gangrenous. They drag the health of the society, weakening it further with every passing day. And that is absolutely aimed at liberals and secularists and humanists, because they actually do that. Want examples? Turn on the news. Rioters burn a city demanding a guilty verdict regardless of the truth of the case. Men stand guilty until proven innocent, though penalties are paid simply because of the accusation regardless of outcome. Thanks to our abandonment of Arit, we have an entire generation of young people who believe that society owes them a living simply because they exist. A generation of people who believe that the mistakes of the previous generations absolve them of responsibility. If this generation had Arit, their reaction would not be one of entitlement or demands that they have amends made. They'd pull on their big boy pants, roll up their sleeves, and get to work. At the heart of Arit is personal responsibility. And personal responsibility does not permit you to pass the buck. Wake up, America. Today is the day. What's the beautiful thing about being alive is that you could change today. You could start today to make a difference, man. And can you do it? Probably not. But in your own in the place where God put you in this world, you could shine a light and make everything around you so much better, man. You don't have to become cynical because of what you see. You can instead shine your light, make the world a better place where you are. And if we all start doing that, wow. I mean, wow. Seriously. If we actually listened to Jesus Christ, all of us, oh man, what kind of a world would we be living in right now? It's amazing. It's amazing. Anyway, God bless you guys.